I never imagined the Vikings faced heartbreaking battles against the freezing cold. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was sharp and biting. I felt it slicing into my skin, each breath a labor as I stumbled along the icy path. The snow was thick, swallowing my footfalls, muffling the cries of my companions. Heartbeats echoed in the stillness, like war drums waiting for a signal. Our village had been a sanctuary, vibrant and alive, but now it lay buried beneath an unforgiving blanket of white. My brother, Eric, was the strongest among us. Always leading the charge, laughing in the face of danger. But today, his laughter was replaced by fear. I looked into his eyes and saw the storm brewing beneath his surface. The weight of our survival crushed us. Those who made the mistake of venturing too far had vanished in the earth's cruel embrace. The elders spoke of spirits in the wind, howling in anger, seeking vengeance for our arrogance. I listened, trembling, as shadows danced in the corners of my vision. I could feel cold droplets sliding down my spine, every chill a reminder of how fragile we really were. At night, the frost took on a life of its own. It whispered through the trees, wrapping around us like a sinister cloak. We huddled together, sharing stories that flickered like the flame in our modest fire. Hope was a flicker, but the darkness was all-consuming. Then came the blizzard, the worst we'd seen. It roared in from the north, a beast unleashed upon us. Our sanctuary transformed into a frozen tomb. Food supplies dwindled, and we turned to desperate measures. The smell of fear permeated the air, mingling with the metallic scent of loss. I clutched my dagger, heart racing, every shadow a source of terror. The wind screamed as if mourning lost souls. I lost track of how many nights we endured, how many hearts were broken watching loved ones perish. None of us would emerge unscathed. Eric, oh, my sweet brother. It was the sound of his sobs that shattered me the most. Numbness crept through my limbs even as my heart hammered like a frantic bird trapped in a cage. And just when I thought the darkness might swallow us whole, I caught a glimpse of something shimmering in the deep. An unusual glint beneath the snow. My pulse quickened with both fear and intrigue. What was hidden beneath our frozen prison? Was it a blessing, or would it bring further doom? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference, let's connect. The wind howled like a banshee, filling the air with an unsettling symphony that drove the heart to dread. I stared at the shimmering glint beneath the snow, half expecting it to vanish like a mirage or grow claws and strike back. Eric stood beside me, his breath shallow and quick, his vibrant spirit now a shadow of what it once was. "It's just ice," he muttered, eyes flickering between resignation and curiosity. But I knew that deep down, he felt it too, the strange pull of something hidden, something that could either save us or plunge us deeper into despair. With the ferocity of survival driving me, I knelt in the snow, my fingers trembling as they began to dig through the frozen layers. Each handful pulled away felt like unveiling a lost secret, and at last, something solid met my fingers, a tarnished brooch, ornate in design, yet marred by ice. The craftsmanship spoke of a time long gone, the very essence of our heritage buried beneath this relentless winter. "What is it?" Eric asked, leaning closer, a flicker of distraction igniting in his eyes. "That I don't know," I whispered, brushing more snow away, revealing the intricate wolf motif, its jaws locked in a howl. "But I can feel its weight. It feels important." As I held it up to the dwindling light, I sensed that it represented more than just a relic. It was a reminder of our past glory, a fragment of hope, a symbol that even in the face of despair, we had once fought fiercely for this land. Moments later, we were interrupted by a scream from the heart of the village. It echoed like crashing thunder, ripping through the air, drawing us back to the present. Our stomachs twisted as we sprinted towards the sound, adrenaline fueling our legs, fear thickening in our throats that we arrived at the central fire pit, a gathering of the few remaining villagers staring wide-eyed at a collapsed figure. It was Joran, a young girl clinging to the last shreds of warmth in the group. Panic seized the air like a vice. "She can't breathe," one of the elders cried. "Someone help her," I rushed forward, desperate to help. My sisterly instincts pushed aside the crushing weight of loss we had all borne. I knelt beside Joran, willing my warmth into her fragile body. Eric did the same, his hands shaking but determined as he pressed his palm against her chest, desperate to bring her back. Her breath wheezed through the frozen air, fragile and eroding. I could see every young face around us, reflecting the raw terror that shadowed us, a fear that lingered, fed by the heavy specter of loss and hopelessness that had become our constant companion. "Stay with us, Joran," Eric pleaded, his voice cracking. "You're strong. Remember the tales of the wolves. They endure." We chanted words of support, a desperate prayer threaded into the cold mist. In that moment, I closed my eyes, holding onto the brooch still held tightly in my hand. I would not let another soul slip through our fingers, not like this. Joran's hand twitched, and I caught a glimpse of recognition in her fading eyes. Perhaps she was recalling the stories we shared, tales of bravery, of ice spirits overcoming their fears. But before I could latch onto the flicker of hope rekindling in our hearts, the howling wind outside morphed into a haunting wail. A sense of urgency pierced my veins as I glanced toward the edges of our village. Shadows danced under the falling snow, moving with an unsettling grace. An image lodged in my mind. Could it be spirits come to avenge the lost ones, or worse yet, another predator seeking flesh? A cold chill wrapped around me, and terror gnawed at my insides. Suddenly, out from the woods, a figure emerged, cloaked in darkness and ice. We froze, time suspended in that dreadful moment. Our feeble fire flickered in challenge to the looming figure. Eric stepped in front of me, his expression hardened with defiance. "What do you want?" His voice was strong, but I caught the tremor in his hands. And as the identity of the figure became clearer, I felt my heart drop, realization tearing through the fragile fabric of my spirit. This was no ordinary visitor from the dark, but a familiar face, shadowed by the heavy burden of betrayal, a manifestation of the very fears we had fought so hard to ignore. "Eric." I breathed, dread enveloping me. The wolf brooch felt hot against my palm, pulsing with the energy of everything unresolved, urging me forward. But could our hope withstand this new challenge that had resurfaced from the depths of our past? The figure stepped into the flickering orange glow of the firelight, casting long shadows that danced like memories we wished to forget. My heart raced as recognition lit up the faces surrounding us. It was Lars, a man we once called a friend, now a hollow shell of confidence and warmth. The stories of old camaraderie and courage threatened to crumble like the cold walls of our village. "Lars," I whispered, hardly daring to believe he had returned, his presence as chilling as the wind. "You shouldn't be here, neither should any of us," he replied, his voice rough and laced with bitterness, mirroring our own grief. He brushed ice from his cloak, revealing a mess of cuts and bruises beneath, a testament to his struggle. "But I came to warn you." Eric took a step forward, anger flashing in his eyes. "You abandoned us. You left us to fend for ourselves when the storms came, yet here I stand, Eric. I couldn't remain in ignorance while my people suffered. There's something in the woods," he gestured back towards the darkness, "something that hunts us." The villagers murmured among themselves, uncertainty creeping back into their hearts. My grip tightened on the brooch, its warmth a reminder of our bond, a thread of stability in this storm. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "There are unnatural forces at play," Lars continued, his brow scrunched with concern. "That storm is not just winter, it's a curse, sweeping away the souls of the living. Joran was taken by it, and if we don't act quickly others will follow. As those words hung heavily in the air, the cruel howls of the wind outside transformed into anguished cries, each wail pricking at the seams of my heart. I turned back to Joran, who was still struggling, breaths like fragile threads that might snap at any moment. Please help her. I pleaded, desperation clawing at my throat. The children gathered, eyes wide with fear, and I felt their hope flickering like the fire so fragile, so easily extinguished. Lars stepped closer, his expression darkening. I can help, but it will require a sacrifice. A piece of what binds us to this world must be relinquished if we are to confront the darkness that approaches. What kind of sacrifice? Eric's voice rang out, tinged with skepticism yet layered with a thread of desperation. Lars straightened and met his gaze, intensity shimmering in his eyes. A memory. One that holds a piece of our past, something deeply cherished. Without it, we can harness the power within the snow itself that I won't lose another memory. I refuse. I shouted, indignation suddenly surging through me. The relic in my palm felt like a heartbeat, alive but tethered to history. But if we do nothing, we will lose Joran and surely more will follow, Lars argued, a fire returning to his demeanor. You must decide, both of you hold on to the past and risk losing our future or give up what weighs you down to save her. The weight of the decision crushed my chest, the choice so raw and horrifying. Memories danced behind my eyes, moments of laughter and tears that painted the chapters of our lives. Would I really be willing to let go of those treasured fragments of joy to save another? The winds outside grew wild, and the shadows crowded closer, threatening to burrow into our souls. I glanced at Eric, whose gaze was fixated on me, a whirl of emotions evident within those deep-set eyes: fury, betrayal, but also flickers of hope. Together, he whispered, as if sensing the churning tempest inside me. Well, face it together. In that moment, peering into the depths of our shared anguish, I felt the ember of defiance spark within. We would not shatter in the face of despair. Whatever price we had to pay, I'd face it alongside him. But as I turned back to Lars, bracing myself for what was to come, a piercing scream erupted outside, choking my voice in an instant. The villagers gasped in horror as a dark figure broke through the snow, silhouetted against the howl of the night, a beast unlike any other, prowling towards Joran, its eyes glowing fiercely with hunger. With a rush of adrenaline, we snapped into action, but in our hearts, doubt began to gnaw once again. Was this what awaited us? The apocalyptic end we feared? Or was our hope still buried beneath the ice, waiting for our courage to unearth it? The figure lunged, and I dropped the brooch, realizing with a heart-stopping jolt that perhaps our only choice was not just a sacrifice I had to make, but a fight for every life that remained. With my sister's life hanging by a thread and shadows closing in, I couldn't shake the sinking feeling that our choices had only just begun. The scream echoed through the chill-laden air, freezing time itself as all eyes turned towards the beast that loomed just beyond the firelight. The creature, fierce and towering, dripped with the malevolence of the night, its breath forming clouds of frost that spiraled like lost spirits. I fought the instinct to recoil, forcing myself to remain rooted in place, my body propelled by sheer willpower. The villagers, once animated, now stood paralyzed, their trust fracturing beneath the weight of terror. Joran's fragile breaths were the only reminder of what was at stake as the creature's guttural growl reverberated deep in my chest. The harbinger of despair had come to claim what it sought. Grab anything you can. Eric shouted, breaking the stillness with a fierce command that cut through the trepidation. He reached for a log by the fire, swinging it like a makeshift weapon. I followed suit, clutching an iron poker, its tip glowing in the flickering light, a pitiful defense against the oncoming darkness. The shadowy figure leapt forward, gliding with unnatural grace despite its brutish form. I felt the ground tremble beneath its weight as it dove past us, targeting Joran with an overwhelming rage. Time blurred, emotions tangled, and all that filled my mind was the desperate need to protect her. I sped toward her, fighting through the haze of panic. Stay back! I cried, positioning myself between her and the beast, the poker shimmering like a beacon of defiance. You won't take her. The creature halted, its glowing eyes narrowing. It circled us, muscles coiling and releasing like a predator sizing up its prey. In that heart-stopping moment, I breathed deeply, willing courage to seep into my bones, but my heart struggled with the reality crashing around us. How could we face something so imbued with fear, something that carried the weight of our darkest fears on its back? Lars was suddenly beside me, wielding a crude weapon of his own, a splintered piece of wood that seemed to mock his return. We need to outsmart it. It thrives on our fear. He shouted, his voice barely resonating above the howling wind. Remember the stories. They fight best when united, even united, we're no match for that. Eric snapped, but his defiance was fracturing, and I could see the begging thread of hope slipping away. Everything that binds us together, Lars continued, eyes sparkling with conviction, is greater than the fear it feeds on. Channel it. Face it. Feel the memories ignite. His words struck a chord inside me. While the horrors clawed at the edges of our collective memory, so too did the moments that held warmth, the laughter of a sunlit day, the embrace of a loved one, the serendipitous victories we had endured together. I thought of Joran's infectious laughter, the way it could brighten the darkest corners of our village, and in that instant, a flicker sparked within. Remember the harvest festival? I yelled over the wind. When Joran turned the apple cider into an explosive concoction, and we all laughed as it covered the barn. We can't let that be the last memory we hold on to. The villagers began to stir, their focus shifting from the beast to the memories that bound us. Faces began to soften, whispers of hope dancing in the air, stirring from within their hearts. I remember the twilight tales. An elderly woman yelled, determination flickering in her eyes. The ones that kept the darkness at bay, tell them. Share the memories. I encouraged, spurred on by the gathering light. I felt the warmth of the brooch still illuminated in my palm, a tether that carried all the laughter and love we had shared. As the villagers joined our voices, recounting stories that soared like the embers from the fire, the air thickened with resolve. But just as the creature recoiled, its snarl growing more fearsome, a dark whisper snaked through the wind, muffling our sounds and instilling an uncertainty. Then the demon lunged again, propelled with wild force, intent on silencing our burgeoning courage. Stand together. Lars shouted, rallying the villagers, their fear melting away into emergency instincts. In that adrenaline-fueled heartbeat, we aligned, shoulder to shoulder, united in an effort that melded strength and hope, hearts pounding as one. But as the creature approached, a flash of light erupted from the forest, blinding everyone momentarily. An unexpected kindness, a signal beckoning from the wilderness, or perhaps an ominous omen? The answer lay buried within that radiance, and just as we shielded our eyes, the beast faltered, caught in the crossfire of our memories and newfound determination. The light faded, revealing not just the creature, but something lurking behind it, a figure cloaked in shadows, a silhouette that seemed strikingly familiar. Nora, it whispered, sending a chill racing down my spine. My breath hitched as recognition melded with dread. Who was this, and what claim did they have over our past? As the beast hesitated, the figure stepped forward from the mist, a harbinger of truth wrapped in uncertainty, and with a heart full of dread, I wondered, was this the reckoning we had been preparing for, or a new deluge that would drown our desperate hearts? The whispers of our past echoed in my ears, blending with the rustling leaves and the frantic heartbeat of the villagers. I stared at the figure emerging from the mists, every fiber of my being screaming for answers while terror clawed at my throat. Shadows danced around it, but the face that began to materialize underwatered both my fear and curiosity. Nora, the name hung in the frigid air like a bitter winter wind. It was a name I had not heard in ages, a name wrapped in the fabric of our village's history, sister who had vanished into the unknown years ago, swallowed by the fears that we dared not face. Is it really you? I choked out, grappling with both relief and sorrow. The weight of my memories released a torrent of emotions, flooding my heart. I had spent countless nights mourning her absence, the ache of her departure becoming an indelible part of my being. As she stepped closer, I saw that the wild glimmer of hope in her eyes was entangled with shadows of despair. I came back to warn you, she said, her voice firmer now, tinged with urgency. The creature you face is not just an entity of nightmares, it seeks to bring forth the very fears you carried. A murmur swept through the crowd, casting uncertainty over our collective resolve. We had been so caught up in confronting the beast that we had almost forgotten the lurking darkness inside ourselves. Why, Nora? Why now? I asked, my heart a battlefield of conflicting emotions. I had to find my way back, she explained, the shadows curling closer as if unwilling to let her go, but am tethered to something far greater than I ever understood. I've learned the stories, the bonds that your memories weave together, the essence of what you need to defeat this monster. The beast snorted behind us, an impatient growl creeping forth, reminding me of the urgency of our situation, yet I couldn't tear my gaze away from Nora. You have to trust me, she continued, desperation spilling from her voice. It feeds on the rage, on the grief, it twists your pain against you. But what I discovered in the depths of my journey, it can help you face it, help us. How? Lars stepped closer, his grip on his weapon unwavering, still propelled by the strength of our memories. Combining your memories with love, with the warmth of this villagite creates a barrier. A light that can send it back to the darkness. You must recall the moments that defined you, those joyful gatherings, the feast shared in laughter, the love given freely. The beast growled again, tightening its focus on Nora, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Thoughts woven from fragmented memories began to filter through me. I remembered the times we had gathered by the river, fishing under the sun, the endless laughter and the feeling of belonging washing over us. More voices joined in, people unsure of their next move but compelled by the familiar warmth of remembrance. An elderly man somehow found the courage to recount the time the entire village rallied to save his home from a flood, hands joined, hearts united. The transformation was palpable. Hope sparked again, flickering in the distance, but the creature's growl intensified, resonating like a thunderstorm, drowning out our rising spirits. It wanted to quell our light, inciting panic in its wake. Nora! We need you with us. I shouted over the rising tide of fear. The air buzzed with uncertainty, fueled by dread of failure and the powerful undercurrent of loss that gripped us all. I was lost, but you can't be. Her jaw clenched, her determination seeping through the cracks of fear. You must remember all of it, even the pain. Your grief is your strength, and each collective memory a key to unlocking the door to confront this darkness. As I turned to face the beast again, I felt the warmth of the villagers' memories radiating. We formed a circle, embedding ourselves in each other's heartstrings, wrapping them in the fabric of remembrance. Together. I called, my voice gaining clarity and strength as I drew on the memories once buried, but as our intentions solidified into a shield, the beast lunged once more, seething with fury as shards of light began to unfurl within us. It sensed its impending defeat through our connection, and in a moment of defiance, its form twisted grotesquely, a manifestation of our collective fears, and just as we began to push back against the darkness, the ground trembled violently, fissures of ice breaking apart under our feet, a stark reminder of the fragility that gripped everything around us. The realization struck me: Nora wasn't just back, she was also part of that darkness, her soul bound by unaddressed fears. Before I could rally us again, a breathtaking light soared into the heavens, illuminating the crippled landscape. A final lashing grasp from the beast, or perhaps a desperate flicker of hope. In that moment, with memories intertwining in a harmonious tribute, the warmth of collective purpose surged through me, almost transcendent, until I found my voice choked with fear as I noticed Nora's shadow stretched toward the beast, compelled by something unseen. No. I screamed, realizing the harrowing truth as the connection between them flared ominously. Was she becoming its harbinger? A betrayer clothed in love's guise. Just as her eyes met mine, terror and sorrow coalescing, the light flickered, an imminent collision of our fates accelerating toward us with unavoidable certainty. Would we stand united to fight against her dreadful allure, or would the memories we cherished be ripped apart in the chilling embrace of darkness once more? The ground shuddered as waves of anguish and uncertainty coursed through the crowd, a visceral tide pitting love against despair. I could see the shift in Nora's posture, the shadows enveloping her grew bolder, snapping at the light I had hoped would unite us. The glimmer in her eyes, once filled with hope, was now flickering dangerously like a candle caught in a gale. Fight it, Nora. I pleaded, my voice cracking with desperation, blood pounding in my ears. You're stronger than this darkness. Remember us. Remember what we fought for. But as the words left my mouth, the spectacle of desolation unfolding around us sent a chill sinking into my very marrow. The memories were flooding through me, yet the shape of Nora standing before me felt less like my sister and more like an echo from the depths of our tragedies. I couldn't reconcile the past joy we'd shared, the laughter that once enveloped us like a warm embrace, against the dark vacancy now clawing at her. Let it go. She shrieked, stepping closer to the beast, her once familiar face becoming twisted by fear and rage. You don't understand. The pain isn't just yours. It's shared. Tears streamed down her cheeks like pure silver, each drop solidifying into shards of frozen despair on the ground. You must accept it, or we will all perish. Instinctively, I took a step back, but I could feel the villagers moving closer, emboldened by me yet haunted by the prospect of losing Nora once again. A collective dread muted our resolve, but one girl, a tiny figure clutching a worn teddy bear, her eyes wide with innocence, squeezed through the throng. She raised her hands in the air, an unblemished heart shining through the despair, grasping for a remnant of our light. Remember that day by the river? Her voice rang out, small yet blood-warm against the encroaching shadows. The day we made boats out of leaves. You taught me how to sail them. A ripple of recognition coursed through the group, memories surfacing like forgotten treasures. One by one, people began to share their stories, filled with laughter, hope, and even heartache, moments that sculpted us as individuals and as a village. Suddenly, I felt the web begin to knit tighter, threads woven with joy and sorrow illuminating our path forward. Yes. Yes. I called out, as the words flowed freely, we were stronger together. Together. Echoed a chorus, voices rising to a crescendo, drowning out the creature's growl. The warmth of recollection whispered through our skin, wrapping around us like a reassuring embrace. Hope bloomed, even amidst the encroaching despair, but just as the specter of unity began to flourish, the earth groaned beneath us, a visceral reminder that shadows were not so easily cast away. The beast shuddered, recoiling at the commotion, its eyes narrowing with malevolence. I glanced at Nora, her gaze glassy and unfocused, drawn yet repelled by the looming creature, as though there existed a tether, invisible yet suffocating. No. I shouted again. Fight it, Nora. Please. And then I understood the memories were a key, but so too were they a mirror, and I felt the weight of unspoken fears pooling within me. What if, in her struggle against the void, Nora had become the embodiment of all that haunted us, the anguish we had never faced, the hurt buried beneath years of silence? With a resolute heart, I gathered every ounce of longing and grief, forging them into a weapon of love. I stepped forward, arms outstretched toward my sister, willing her to remember our shared past, the long-forgotten tales we had spun together, the love that tied our souls above the fray. Nora, you are not alone. You're still with us, fighting for us. I cried, urgency lacing my voice as I reached for her shadowy figure. Embrace the light within those memories. For a moment, her eyes flickered. I caught a glimpse of the sister I lost, the laughter I cherished breaking through the murkiness. I wanted to tell you, she started, her voice cracking as the shadows recoiled, but before she could finish, the beast roared, exuding a tempest of rage that struck chaos through our united front. In that instant, time slowed, and a blinding flash erupted from the depths of the shadows, the ground split open, and the light spiraled upward in luminous tendrils, threatening to consume everything. I felt Nora's essence wavering, and as I surged forward, I could sense her, a light hidden within the darkness, battling inexorably against the chains that bound her. But when I reached out for Nora, the bond rippled and distorted beneath its own weight of fear and uncertainty. I felt a wrenching force grasp at my heart, an anguished keening that reverberated through us all, as I witnessed my sister slip further into the depths of the beast's maw. Then, from the heart of the blinding eruption, I saw an unexpected figure emerge, a man dressed not in shadows but in radiant light. His form was flickering in and out, as though he was a remnant of hope sent to sever our ties to the darkness. He is here. Someone cried. The keeper between the worlds, at the peak of the chaos, as everything seemed destined to spiral into unfathomable loss, I caught the keeper's eye, a knowing glance that reverberated through the air, a revelation locking between us, promising more questions than answers. Together we are stronger. I screamed, fighting the temptation of despair. And together we will find our way back to love. But as those words lingered, I felt Nora's darkness tearing through me. Would that pledge cost everything we cherished? The thought clawed at my resolve, and I couldn't help but wonder, as the fabric of our world began to unravel, was the keeper our salvation, or a harbinger carrying the weight of unimaginable loss? Before any clarity would reveal itself, a deafening crack pierced the air. The ground trembled anew beneath us, echoing the heartache of my village, encompassing the shadows and light that swirled in a deafening battle. The inevitable choice laid bare, the light dimmed. Shadows surged forward. Would we be able to hold on to the bonds we cherished, or would the darkness consume us, raising our very souls into the bitter winds of the past? The echoes of my plea hung suspended in the chaos, melding with the feral roar of the beast. As the cacophony assaulted my senses, my heart raced with a mix of terror and longing, desperately craving the warmth of connection in the face of overwhelming darkness. Nora stood at the precipice, the embodiment of every ounce of choice that once bound us together, now teetering on the edge. Her eyes shimmered with tumultuous shadows, caught between the promise of our fondest memories and the suffocating pull of despair. I wanted to tell you, she had started before the darkness surged forward again, silencing her words and instigating a chasm between her and everything we cherished. Stay with us, Nora. Remember the stories. I pleaded, my voice rising above the roar, straining against the chaos. Desperation was clawing at my throat as I caught sight of the little girl doling out courage among the chaos, still clutching her tattered teddy bear. Remember the river. The boats. The joy of simply being, the girl's voice rang out amid the storm. And the dances we shared in the moonlight? She added, her innocence cutting sharply through the despair like a fragile blade. I want to dance with you again, Nora. Together, we summoned fragments of cherished moments. The villagers drifted into our memories as if they were being beckoned from an ancient spell, a testament to our intertwined lives. The songs we sang by the fireplace. An elder cried, his voice thick with nostalgia. The warmth of our sanctuary. As memories surged like the tide, I felt an unexpected shift in the air. The shadows wavered momentarily, struck by the collective light of our shared stories. Tears streamed down countless faces as strength surged among us, but through the flickering light, I still felt a sense of terror lurking at the edges, a haunting reminder that togetherness does not always promise victory. And yet, nestled amid the fear, flickers of hope sparked like fireflies in the dark. The keeper's radiance pulsed in waves, flickering in rhythm with our shared heartbeat, as though it were a hidden connection that spanned ages. I reached out, desperately trying to grasp that flicker, to turn it into a lifeline. But an even deeper unease began to coil within me. I couldn't shake the notion that, deep down, Nora battled not just the beast, but something far more menacing: doubts, secrets, pain, the suffocating expectations that had tormented her in silence. What had I missed amidst our shared suffering? The beast roared, frantic yet relentless. Was that Nora, or was she merely a vessel caught in its twisted desire to overcome? In that moment, I understood, she was not just battling the darkness, she was threading her way through every wound we had both tried to bury. Nora! I yelled, my throat raw. The keeper isn't here to harm us. He's here to guide us through. The keeper stepped closer, and I caught a strange mix of sorrow and resolution within his gaze, a mirrored reflection of the hope and fear that laced through me. You must confront her darkness, not just for her, but for the both of you. Only then will the shadows relinquish their grasp. His words struck deeply, a call to arms in a battle that was rooted in the past. But confronting those shadows meant unearthing pain buried too long. The thought of dredging up the heartache made my knees quaver, yet the sense of urgency swirled around me. The beast shuddered as though sensing my resolve. That I looked to my sister, this fractured version of Nora still caught in her battle. The depth of her urgency clawed at my heart. I had to help her embrace the light. What are you afraid of? I pressed, my heart cracking open as again that glimmer flickered across her face and then dissipated, swallowed whole by shadows. That I don't want to hurt anyone else. She cried, the anguish in her voice as sharp as blades. I've hurt you all enough. The air grew thick with the weight of her confession, each word an unraveling thread against the shipwreck of our lives. My heart sank, the implications crashing into me like waves battering the shore. Was she right? Had our bonds been built on shared loss rather than our shared dreams? A wave of soft murmurs rippled through the crowd, soft whispers bouncing from one person to the next, I could feel the tightening bond of our collective spirit. Courage bloomed as hands began reaching toward Nora, faces radiant with hope even if it was just a spark. "Nora, don't isolate yourself in this anguish," I urged, straining against the gravity of despair. "We can face this together. No one is perfect, we all carry scars. But those scars don't define us." The shadows receded ever so slightly, writhing and pulsing with furious intensity, and I realized my words were reaching beyond her. Those around us began sharing their fears, the pain they had bottled up, lost dreams, obligations unfulfilled. "I was afraid of failing," a mother admitted, tears rolling down her visage. "I buried it so deep that I lost sight of my child's smile." Each shared fear acted like a balm on our unity, a tight-woven connection that filled the void between us. But beneath that connection lay a daunting truth: the darkness would not relent easily. Then, just as new threads of hope were being woven, an earth-shattering roar erupted one last time, drowning out all voices. In the blink of an eye, the swirling darkness rampaged toward us, thrashing violently, as if sensing our alliance as a threat. The keeper raised his hands, arms glowing with fierce light, illuminating everything in our path. Seizing the moment, I stepped forward, heart hammering against my ribs. "Nora, you have to face this. It's telling you that your story isn't over. Show this darkness the light that has always been more powerful. Our love is stronger than any fear." But as I pleaded, I felt something shift within me, an unseen tether pulling at my heart, suddenly thrumming with a pulse of desperate anguish. The keeper's light flickered, and an uneasy compulsion washed over me like a tide, embodying the shadow's deepest anguish. "Will you stand together?" the keeper asked, a lingering silence weaving through us, weighing each soul's response. I turned back toward my sister, a single thought hanging in the air: if I choose to embrace this darkness, choosing the anguish that came with being broken, would we mingle our light and shadow together, or would we unravel entirely? Time froze as I held my breath, vulnerable in that uncertainty. With the shadows looming closer, I pondered the immense choice laid before us. Would I take that step into the darkness with Nora, or surrender to fear's suffocating grasp and let her slip away forever, unsure of where our journey may lead? As the battle began to intensify, an overwhelming wave of anguish split the ground beneath us, but all I could see were those boundless possibilities, both terrifying and beautiful. Would we continue the fight, or would the shadow be our final chapter? The chaos of the moment solidified around me, a visceral reminder of the weight of every choice that lay at our feet. The darkness loomed, throbbing, pulsating, almost sentient as it enveloped us. I could feel Nora's despair radiating like a haunting melody, strumming chords of sorrow within my own being. "Please, Nora," I whispered, my voice trembling under the magnitude of our turmoil. "You are not alone. I'm right here." I extended my hand, trembling but resolute, trying to bridge the tumultuous divide. The icy grasp of uncertainty clutched at my heartbeat. As I watched her grapple with the shadows, I was struck by a flash of understanding. Perhaps we had never truly overlapped in our fears. While I wore my scars like armor, Nora had huddled inside herself, too afraid to let them see the light. "Tell me what burdens you, sister," I urged, forcing the words between trembling breaths. Her gaze locked onto mine, and for a heartbeat, the noise of the storm softened. All that existed was us. "I don't know where I belong anymore," she whispered, the anguish threading through her words like needles piercing the fabric of her heart. "I thought my purpose was to keep everyone safe, but all I do is hurt them. I can't bear the thought of dragging you down with me." "That's the thing, isn't it?" came a voice from the edge of our gathering. Alina, the eldest of our community, stepped forward, her hands steady yet filled with reluctance. "You didn't choose this burden alone. We all carry a piece of this darkness, Nora. But together, we can redefine our purpose." The crowd surged forward, each familiar face carrying the weight of their own battles. I could feel their fears intertwining with Nora's despair, like a tapestry woven by invisible threads. "We need you," another villager whispered, each shared sentiment reinforcing the delicate bond that together we were striving to protect. Nora's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty giving way to the faintest sign of recognition. You don't understand, she said, her voice thick with the longing to be enforced. No matter how strong our love is, I'm the one who carries the torment. I can't let that darkness spread. Sometimes, Alina continued, her voice steady, it's necessary to embrace those shadows. They can guide us if we let them. They are a part of your story. Every heart bears scars, and those scars teach us how to hold on to hope. A deep rumble rippled through the ground beneath us, the beast roaring even louder, feeding on our trepidation like a malevolent spirit determined to quench our light. But something remarkable happened, the flicker of understanding ignited within Nora. Her gaze shifted from the shadows clawing at us to the faces around her, faces adorned with both fear and hope. Together, she breathed, her eyes sparkling as they flitted between the terror encasing us and the warmth being offered. In that moment, she bridged the chasm within herself, a tiny spark igniting within her heart. Suddenly, the air shifted. The keeper's glow intensified as if feeding on the building courage. Now is the time, he proclaimed, his voice echoing with power. Embrace the shadows, Nora. Show them the strength of your spirit. And as that call echoed, something inside me shattered, unlocking a tremor of vulnerability I hadn't realized had been held captive. I could feel my own darkness writhing and rising, fighting to be acknowledged. I, too, I cried, I bear burdens and shadows. I admit that I am scared. An electric surge rolled through the crowd as we began to coalesce, our voices rising as one. We shared our fears and dreams out loud, a beautiful cacophony of unraveling humanity, weaving our fragments of light and dark into an ethereal cloak of strength. The shadows lunged forward again, a reckless tempest. But this time, they hesitated, drawn back slightly by the collective power of our united spirits. With fiery determination, I squeezed Nora's hand, hoping she could feel the pulse of my heart amid the fray. Let's confront this together. Your truths are my truths. We create our own path with every acknowledgement. I urged, pouring as much warmth and love into my voice as I could muster. I choose to fight, she stammered, her voice trembling but resolute. Together. An eruptive roar shattered the moment. The darkness surged like a tidal wave, crashing toward us, threatening to extinguish all that we had built. But just as the shadows seemed poised to engulf us completely, Nora stepped forward, her shoulders squared. I will not cower. With a sudden rush of adrenaline, I followed her lead, our collective steps mirroring each other. Nor will we, cried the crowd, their voices rising above the tempest. Together, we stood against the night, a living fortress against the encroaching despair, light upon light illuminating the abyss, but just as the darkness seemed to ebb, an earth-shaking quake reverberated beneath us. From the depths, a great rift opened expansively, swallowing portions of the village, the familiar warmth of home descending into a swirling cauldron of insatiable darkness. As I steadied myself against the tumult, staring down into the abyss that pulled at my very soul, a sickening twist coiled within my stomach. I glanced at Nora, dread pooling in my heart, a sense of foreboding laced with love and fear. The keeper's voice echoed in my ear, twisting with urgency. One must sacrifice to reveal the truth of what lies beneath. Who among you will take that leap? I could see it in their faces. The question licked at each heart with an undeniable intensity. In that moment, the rift began to widen, unfurling the darkest depths of pain waiting to be unleashed. Someone must go into the void, I breathed, barely able to voice the truth weighing heavily in the air, realizing as the words fell from my lips that I stood on the precipice of a horrifying choice. As the shadows tightened their grip, Nora turned her gaze to me, and in her eyes, I glimpsed the very essence of our shared longing. Together, I whispered, but the uncertainty hung between us like an unseen chain, ready to shatter our very souls. With that, the darkness swelled, ready to claim its prize, and I stood on the edge of a choice that could alter everything: the leap into the shadows, or the tearing apart of all we held dear. As the tumult spiraled around us, I couldn't help but wonder, would love transcend the depths of darkness, or would it consume everything we had fought to rebuild? The ground continued to tremble beneath our feet, the chaos swirling around us like a frenzied tempest determined to unravel every bond we'd forged amid the fabric of our community. I could feel the weight of every heartbeat, the pulse of despair resonating alongside a blossoming courage, but it was enveloped by an unrelenting fear, a dread that hung thick in the air, choking the words in my throat. Choose wisely, the keeper's voice reverberated, charged with a gravitas that sent shivers down my spine, his eyes shining with a knowing urgency. For the shadows you confront and the sacrifice requested may reshape the very essence of who we are. What if I started, the words hanging just shy of hope? What if this sacrifice doesn't have to be despair? What if it could become our strength? My voice wavered, but the intensity in Nora's gaze gave me courage. What do you mean? She asked, the air thick with anticipation as she took a step closer, mirroring the rhythm of my rapid heartbeats. That I glanced at the rift, its yawning void filled with whispers of the past, painful memories woven into the fabric of its darkness. The keeper mentioned a leap. What if we didn't just forsake someone to the void? What if we allowed ourselves to enter it together? To confront whatever lies within as a united front? The crowd murmured in confusion, shadows flickering across their faces as curiosity wrestled with fear. Some turned their eyes toward the encroaching darkness, uncertainty gnawing at their resolve. But as I looked back to Nora, I saw a flicker of determination igniting. She was considering a shared descent into the unknown, not a sacrifice of one, but a choice for all. But what if it consumes us? Someone in the back whispered, voice trembling. The vulnerability of that question reverberated among us, revealing the raw fear that bound us closer to both the light and the darkness. Maybe, Nora said, her voice steadying, but these shadows are a part of our story. We have a chance to understand them instead of running from them. I held my breath, intoxicated by the surge of unity. There, amidst fear and uncertainty, I saw a path unfolding, one marked by undeniable courage and care. If we embrace this together, we may uncover something transformative, I proposed, each word cutting through the despair like a beacon of light. Whatever this rift holds, it does not define us. We define how we respond. The crowd shifted, the surge of emotions palpable, doubt began to mingle with newfound resolve. Whispers faded into nods, uncertain smiles sparking in some as a collective strength revived among us, lifted by the very essence of our humanity. I will not let our burdens tear us apart, I declared, looking into the eyes of each villager, willing them to see the power of our connection. If we leap together, we leap into the unknown not as individuals but as a united front. This may unveil a truth that binds rather than divides, that we may discover our greatest strengths, Nora added, her hands gripping mine, her touch like the warmth of sunlight breaking through oppressive clouds. And then, as if the universe conspired with us, the darkness trembled, the air around us thickening with anticipation. Let's take this step. I shouted, my heart pounding with wild adrenaline as I felt the collective energy swell. One by one, hands linked, our hearts ignited a brilliant glow, a shield against the encroaching shadows. At that moment, the rift sprang forth with a surge of pulsating energy, drawing us in. Encased in warmth from our united front, we began to approach the edge, the darkness awaiting with malevolent hunger and a promise veiled in mystery, and for a fleeting heartbeat, I felt a rush of exhilaration. This was our chance, our moment carved from desperation into courage. Together, we stepped into the void, an amalgamation of light and shadow, ready to confront whatever lay beneath, but as we plunged deeper into the darkness, I could sense the weight of doubt clawing at my resolve. What awaited us? Whispers from a distant past echoed hauntingly in the corners of my mind, familiar, yet foreign. A feeling of something ominous surged through mesomething, lost but graspable within the cold clutch of the unknown. Suddenly, a voice shattered through the Dina voice I recognized from long ago. You think you can defy fate? Your union will be your undoing. The shadows roared, enveloping us in their chilling embrace as the light we had conjured flickered perilously, destabilized and threatened to spiral into nothingness. For just a moment, I caught a glimpse of Nora, her face a mask of terror, yet her resolve unwavering. But before I could reach for her, a surge of darkness erupted, swirling like a cyclone, tearing us apart. The voices rose in a symphony of anguish, echoed in a chorus of broken promises, and as I tumbled farther into the abyss, I could feel our connection fraying like a fragile thread. A shocking realization struck me. The shadows may have known our greatest fears, but did they sense our greatest strengths? With all my might, I screamed for Nora, for our shared light, fighting against the darkness pulling us into the depths that I am. That heart-stopping moment as everything swirled violently around me, a fragment of her voice rang out just before I lost her to the chaos. Don't give up on me. Darkness loomed, a labyrinth of uncertainty and fear, but through the haze, I felt the flicker of hope igniting. We trembled between the promise of unearthing a truth that could forge anew and the dread of being forever separated. As the abyss threatened to engulf me, a boundless journey lay ahead, a journey that could redefine love, loss, and everything we held dear. But in the depths of the void, something shifted, a chilling certainty sank into my bones. What if, in our quest to understand the shadows, we inadvertently unraveled the very fabric of our bond? I awoke in a place that felt both distant and achingly familiar, floating between dreams and shadows. The darkness enveloped me like a shroud, thick and suffocating, yet I could feel flickers of warmth, soft echoes of laughter reverberating through the stillness. Memories, tender and raw, washed over me, as if calling me home. Where are you? I whispered, feeling the weight of doubt crush my chest. Instinctively, I reached out, fingers brushing against something cool, a surface, an unseen barrier that separated me from what I longed most to touch. Nora. But my voice trembled, fading into the depths of the void, swallowed by the shadows that danced just beyond my grasp. A heartbeat of silence followed, and then, from that crushing void, came a sound of familiar strain, singing of hope, of battles won and lost. Remember us. The ethereal voices mingled, winding around my heart like vines, pulling me back to the warmth of my village, back to the echoes of life we once shared. That I was separated from the light we had forged together, the flickering radiance that had beckoned me through layers of despair. But despite the oppressive darkness, I could feel a flicker of light somewhere deep within the maze of shadows, a glimmer anchored in love, one that seemed drawn to my cry. Together, I murmured, recalling the words that once stitched our hearts together, the unyielding bond woven from laughter, fears, and whispered dreams. And suddenly, clarity surged through me like fire. Memories began to unfurl in vibrant colors, painting the canvas of my mind, the taste of sweet cider on sun-drenched mornings, the twinkling stars that watched over cozy campfires, our stories intertwined through strands of grief and joy. A tapestry of connections, fragile yet unbreakable, rose before me. Nora. I shouted, my voice bold and steady, igniting something within the darkness that I could feel the shadows recoil in response, a shudder rippling through their depths as if my words had sliced through the heavy cloak of despair we had been tangled in for so long. As if summoned, wisps of silver light began to weave through the air, illuminating the path before me. That I and that shimmering glow, I saw the me people, standing resolutely in defiance. The keeper stepped forward, his gaze unwavering, a bridge between worlds. You can either succumb to the dark, or you can fight, he said, his voice resonating like deep thunder. What will you choose? I felt the weight of that question. A choice to either cling to the pain that wanted to bury me alive, or a leap of faith into the warmth and community that birthed every ounce of courage within me. That I choose love. I cried, my heart racing. I choose us, and the surge of warmth I had longed for swallowed me whole, cascading around me and pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of hope. The shadows writhed, howling in rage, but in their fury, I felt a shift. The balance was tilting, and their hold on me was weakening. Together. I urged, knowing deep within that we needed one another, had always needed one another. I envisioned Nora, her face streaked with tears, her strength battling the shadows that insisted on devouring her. Nora, hear me. We are not alone. One by one, the villagers joined in, their hopes woven into our shared fight. Together. Echoed and grew, a symphony of unyielding determination shining through the tempest. From within the darkness, in a vibration of familiar warmth, a flicker stirred, illuminating the shadows. It was Nora, caught between the past and the future, an echo of the sister I had known and the echoes of pain she carried. But as the warmth of our words wrapped around her, something shifted. I remember. She gasped, her voice escaping like a whisper in the wind, rising against the chaos around her. I remember who I am. Oh, we are. Slowly, the weight of her anguish began to lift, the shadows writhed, battling against the light we conjured, but together, we pressed onward, the bonds of our past igniting with ferocity. Remember the dances by the river? Remember the laughter at harvest? I cried, finding solace in the strings of our shared experience. You carry the echoes of our village. Don't let the darkness claim your heart. Rise with me, Nora. With those words, I felt her soul reach for mine, a tether that defied the bleakness. I saw her, fragile yet fierce, her gaze fixing on me amid the shifting shadows that once threatened to tear us apart. The connection found grounding, nourishing the flickering light until it burst forth in a brilliance we had long yearned to reclaim, together. We shouted in unison, our voices intertwining with the cadence of our memories as something magnificent awakened within us. The shadows shrieked, recoiling as the light surged brighter, claws producing sparks that danced with ethereal grace, and then, a blinding eruption consumed the darkness, a radiant kaleidoscope woven from our stories, every shared laugh healing a wound, every tear released bridging a chasm. In an electrifying moment, the shadows faltered yet again, revealing a path anew, a doorway formed of translucent light, shimmering before us. It unveiled the world that had once been, the unity we had fought to reclaim, and the love that transcended every heartache. As we stood together, arms linked, a crested wave of the past surged forward, a reminder that what we cherished was far greater than any darkness we had ever faced. I stepped toward that light, hand in hand with my sister, my people, and feel the warmth seep into my bones, weaving a blanket of hope after the oppressive night. Let's go home, I whispered to Nora, the weight of uncertainty replaced by warmth and love. With synchronized steps, we stepped through the luminous doorway together, leaving the shadows behind as the glow of our village welcomed us back, colors dancing under the radiant sun, laughter resounding within the streets. The gentle embrace of community wrapped around us like a cocoon, imbuing us with a sense of belonging we had yearned for. Together as one, we forged a new tapestry, a beautifully flawed, imperfectly woven series of lives interlaced by heart and history. And as the echoes of our shared past rose like a chorus in celebration, the shadows trembled behind us, always a whisper in the wind but never to sever the heartstrings of our unity again. In that moment of comprehensive clarity, I felt a pulsing rhythm that would guide us through every storm, reminding us that darkness could never extinguish our light, as long as we stood, hand in hand, together. And one final thought glimmered through the air, a silent promise that rang through my heart, echoed in every soul present, and stretched far beyond. We are our stories, and together, we choose to write new ones.